Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, November 8th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The U.S.-Mexico border is now reopened for non-essential travelers. All international visitors will need to show vaccination proof to cross into the U.S. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel has more from the San Isidro port of entry.
Fully vaccinated foreigners can finally cross into the U.S. It's a day many have been waiting for, especially those who have been separated from their loved ones for nearly 2 years now.
As soon as they open, I'm crossing, Amada Salgada says. It didn't matter how many hours it would take her to cross. Come November 8th, she would be in line with documents and vaccination certificate in hand. After being separated from her family for so long, she says her biggest wish is to see them. Salgada was one of many Mexican citizens on Monday stepping foot into the U.S. for the first time since border restrictions were put in place 20 months ago. The city of San Diego marked the long-awaited day in San Isidro, along with other local officials. Newly elected Baja California Governor Marina del Pilar was there. She applauded the binational effort it took to lift border restrictions and talked about the economic impact both sides of the border have experienced with the loss of cross-border commerce. Mayor Todd Gloria says it's time to bridge the gap the restrictions created.
This reopening comes at an especially critical time because it allows local businesses to seize the economic opportunity presented by the holiday shopping season.
The San Isidro Chamber of Commerce says more than 200 businesses were lost during the border closure, and more than 2,000 people lost their jobs. With an uptick in traffic expected, the chamber is hoping businesses will get back on track. Shoppers who crossed to San Isidro Monday morning say they were surprised by the short wait times. Rosario Garcia arrived early to the port of entry expecting a long line, but says it's the shortest wait she's ever made in San Isidro. Garcia says U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers didn't ask her to show vaccination proof when she crossed, but others we spoke to say they were asked to show documentation. According to CBP, vaccine documents will be requested at random. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
A legal showdown taking place this afternoon over masks in schools. The local group Let Them Breathe fighting to mitigate the mandate. KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne is live at the Vista Courthouse with the arguments being made by both sides. Tanya.
Thanks, Maya. Yeah, we're outside of the Vista Courthouse where the hearing brought on by the Let Them Breathe group against the state and Governor Gavin Newsom ended about an hour ago. But no decision was reached today. Sharon McKeeman, the founder of the group.
Ruling today. I know that, for instance, I was involved in the school reopening lawsuit, and that we did hear a ruling quickly, but it wasn't the day of, because she will not only make the decision, but write probably a pretty extensive ruling on this as well.
Today, both parties presented their arguments. Let Them Breathe claiming that Governor Newsom has exceeded his power on the state of emergency and that there is no longer an emergency and conditions have changed. And the state arguing that the safety guidelines are recommendations that public health officials have supported and ensure safe schools. The judge could not come to a decision today and will set another day for both parties to present their evidence. In Vista, Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
And some drama at the Vista Courthouse today that had nothing to do with the case. The north building had to be evacuated after the ceiling collapsed in one of the courtrooms. No one was hurt, but the building where the criminal and juvenile matters are handled is closed. An engineer is inspecting the damage to determine when it can reopen. It won't be a 4-day weekend for students at the San Diego Unified School District. After announcing the possibility of taking a mental health and wellness day, the district is walking back its decision to vote on the matter, saying it welcomes students on November 12th. The school decided to keep the school open after hearing from some parents about childcare concerns because of the short notice that was given. If parents do wish to keep their kids home for a mental health day, absences will be marked as excused. As we've reported, San Diego Unified has a severe shortage of applicants for hundreds of jobs. Now the district is putting out the Help Wanted sign with financial incentives, especially for those qualified to teach and support children with special needs. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has more on the latest twist in recruitment.
Sit, sit, good boy, sit.
Jenny Kingston is a dedicated mother who loves her fur babies and the 4 children she and her husband Brian have raised. Each Kingston kid adopted a dog for emotional support, an important part of their education as students with special needs. Jenny is also a substitute para-educator with the San Diego Unified School District. She taught her own children and got them through COVID distance learning and is now ready to apply for a permanent position to help others.
I tend to want to connect with a group of kids for a lengthier period of time so I can see the growth, so I can see where they're struggling and where they need some more help.
San Diego Unified is now aggressively seeking qualified applicants to fill teaching and support jobs for children with special needs. Special education requires a special skill set, and the district is offering a $4,000 signing bonus for teachers they hire. There are also benefits for support staff.
We want our children to have the best. We are focused on making sure that they have the best, and we want to make sure that folks know how serious we are about that.
By the way, the school district is still looking for a superintendent, too. HR officials say the door is always open to new applicants, but the special financial incentives are available now. And through March 15th, 2022. Jenny Kingston is not only a potential applicant, she continues to be an advocate for those she loves and the students she wants to help the district support. Her invitation is clear.
You can learn the tools, you can learn the techniques to assist a child, but the core of it is that you have to feel a passion or a drive to want to help kids learn.
Help wanted and mission accomplished. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Kaiser Permanente pharmacy workers have given their notice of an impending strike. Nearly 2,500 pharmacy employees from San Diego to Kern County say they will strike on November 18th if there is no movement at the bargaining table. The work stoppage comes after stalled negotiations and contract offers that are considered low by 6 local UFCW unions. The notice also informs Kaiser of the employees' intention to picket and Kaiser Permanente locations. The strike would also include pharmacy techs, assistants, and interns at nearly 150 locations. San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria stood atop the USS Midway today to announce a new advisory council to help support military members, veterans, and their families. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado spoke with the mayor, members of the new council, and their families.
Mary Tanaka remembers the difficulties of being a military spouse. Her husband, Hideaki Tanaka, was in the Air Force for 15 years.
It was a lot to kind of navigate, moving from place to place every 2 to 3 years, trying to settle down, trying to, establish, a community.
As veterans?
Now, Hideaki is part of the newly formed Mayoral Advisory Council for military members, veterans, and their families.
People ask me, what's the toughest job in the military? And the toughest job in the military is being a military spouse or a military family member.
Hearing something like this, where a council from Mayor Gloria that wants to help these families and help our children, help the spouses, kind of create that community and identify resources that we can utilize is wonderful.
Today, Mayor Todd Gloria announced the council aboard the USS Midway, flanked by state, local leaders, and his new advisors.
As a platform to be able to look at different ways for us as San Diego to do better.
Including Keisha Jarvis-Jones, a Marine combat veteran.
For our family members, they have to, kind of rely on each other and get together on their own in order to feel welcome. And sometimes that takes a long time and it becomes a lonely space.
Gloria says if military families feel welcome here, they'll stay, and San Diego will be better for it. But in order to make that happen, they need to be heard and feel like someone has their backs.
Creating this particular council creates that direct line of communication to City Hall, and so their voices can be heard, and we can identify the solutions that will help support them, which means supporting our service members.
Gloria says finding affordable housing and child care solutions are big priorities for this council. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The Secretary of the Navy is in San Diego. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says he is urging sailors, Marines, and defense workers to get vaccinated ahead of the deadline.
The Navy has the highest vaccination rate of any of the services. Roughly 99% of sailors have had at least one shot ahead of the November 28 deadline for all active duty Navy and Marines to be vaccinated. Navy Secretary Carlos Del Toro was in San Diego Monday.
I think we're well on track to get those numbers as close to 100% as possible. And we're going to work with those that decide not to get vaccinated for whatever reason. We're going to counsel them. We're going to talk to them. We're going to give them opportunities to sort of get the vaccination.
Though lower than the Navy, roughly 95% of the Marines have at least been partially vaccinated.
It's a slightly younger force is what it is, right? And so the Marine Corps has a much younger population in their early years, essentially. So it's just a matter of convincing them and having them understand, that the vaccines are safe.
Del Toro distanced himself from the Marines who have declared that anyone without an exemption who misses the deadline will immediately begin the process of being removed from the Corps.
We're going to work with those that decide not to get vaccinated for whatever reason. We're going to counsel them. We're going to talk to them. We're going to give them opportunities to sort of get the vaccination. And at some point in time, folks who decide not to get vaccinated are probably going to have to make a choice whether they want to stay in the Department of the Navy or not.
This was Del Toro's first visit to the city as Navy Secretary. He paid surprise visits to several Navy ships as the Navy grapples with the fallout from the 2020 arson on board the USS Bonhomme Richard.
There's a lot of training issues that were brought to the light. There were a lot of material issues that were brought to light as well, too. And it's my job now to basically find the resources and the mechanisms necessary to correct those deficiencies moving forward so that they don't happen again.
Del Toro spoke Monday before the San Diego Military Advisory Council. Saturday, he was at the christening of the USS Harvey Milk, which was built in San Diego. The oiler is dedicated to the gay civil rights advocate and slain San Francisco city councilman, who was also a Navy vet. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
U.S. officials have decided to build new sewage treatment facilities on both sides of the U.S.-Mexico border as they try to fix the region's persistent cross-border sewage flows. They plan to expand the existing international sewage plant, build a new treatment plant to catch Tijuana River flows, and add other sewage capture systems near the border. Federal officials hope to eliminate 95% of the sewage flows which currently foul U.S. waters.
These are all such critical projects that really represent, in our view, a holistic and comprehensive solution to the challenge.
Environmental reviews and design work will start right away, and the first project could be under construction in 2024. The U.S. has $300 million set aside already, but another $330 million will be needed to complete all the projects they hope to build. San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria is on his way to the COP26 Global Climate Conference in Scotland to highlight the city's climate initiatives. Gloria has been invited to speak on panels led by the U.S. Department of Transportation and climate mayors. At the conference earlier today, former President Obama led a roundtable discussion on climate change. He also addressed criticism that the U.S. isn't acting fast enough to cut emissions and uphold the pledges of the Paris Agreement.
It's not for lack of trying by the kinds of people who you are working with here, but we've got our contentious battle. It's one of the things about democracy. It turns out you don't always get your way.
Obama is urging representatives of 200 nations to do their part, saying rich nations have an extra burden.
We have a couple cool days ahead for areas near the coast and a little bit further inland, but there's a big time warm up moving in for the later part of the work week, and there's no rain in the forecast for us across Southern California. We're going to stay dry. Northern California going to get in on a little bit of that rain, but for us here in Southern California, not going to happen. Temperatures as we head into tonight, getting down into the low 50s in Oceanside, mid 40s out for you in Escondido. Borrego Springs getting down to 55. And again, here is that rain that tries to press further south. Gusty winds picking up here across much of central and northern California. But Southern California, basically from Los Angeles southward, looks to remain dry. Temperatures going to get up into the upper 60s for you in Oceanside and San Diego. Chula Vista getting up to 68. Mount Laguna, 50s out there for you. El Cajon, 73 degrees for your daytime high. Wednesday, it's cool across the interior sections, but pleasant across much of central and southern California out into Arizona. And temperatures really going to warm up as we head towards Thursday and Friday of this week. Take a look at this. Near the coast, we go from the mid to upper 60s Tuesday and Wednesday into the low 80s by the time we get towards Thursday and Friday and Saturday. Plenty of sunshine moving forward too. We might have a little bit more in the way of cloud cover tomorrow, but beyond that, plenty of sunshine as we move ahead. Further inland, temps go from the 70s to the 90s. Sunshine also, plenty of that in the forecast moving forward. A little bit of some cloud cover Tuesday, but not a whole lot to worry about there. In the mountains, we really don't see too much in the way of changes. We generally are going to sit in the mid to upper 50s and eventually get up into the low 60s here Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So a little bit of a warm up, but nothing too major there. And in the deserts, from the 80s back up into the 90s we go with dry conditions and plenty of sunshine as we move forward. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
Lawsuits are now being filed following that deadly Astro World concert tragedy that claimed 8 lives. Reporter Chris Nguyen looks at what went wrong and what the performers are saying about the fan surge that proved to be fatal.
In Houston, Astro World Festival goers describe the moments leading up to a crowd surge that left at least 8 people dead and dozens more hurt.
You couldn't control where you were going.
The crowd of 50,000 packed tightly in places as headliner Travis Scott began his set, with many crushed and trampled over as waves of people moved toward the stage.
My focus right now, and the focus of others in this city, to make sure that the families of those who have lost loved ones, that their needs are being met.
Officials say Scott continued to play for about 30 minutes after the concert was declared a mass casualty event, and they're investigating what he knew and when. In a statement, Scott said he stopped his show, quote, anytime he realized a problem. A lawsuit has now been filed against the rapper, the companies that organized the event, and others claiming they put profits over safety. CNN has reached out to Scott for comment.
If the crowd is in distress and that can be identified by an experienced spotter, that needs to be communicated, and you've only got minutes then to save lives.
In a statement, Live Nation said in part, heartbroken for those lost and impacted at Astroworld. We will continue working to provide as much information and assistance as possible to the local authorities as they investigate the situation. The criminal investigation into the deadly crowd surge could take weeks as concert goers process the trauma.
Now that I'm recollecting, just the fact that I was breathing the same air that some people took their last breaths is just not even real.
Chris Nguyen, KPBS News.
A Biden administration official says Pfizer could be looking to getting emergency use authorization for its COVID booster shot for anyone above the age of 18. That's according to the Washington Post. The request could come this week. The FDA has already authorized the booster for those who are 65 or older, for anyone with increased risk of contracting the virus or getting severely ill from it. The authorization would get the Biden administration closer to its goal of boosters for all adults. In LA today, anyone going to a mall, a theater, gym, or nail salon must verify they're vaccinated. The mandate is one of the strictest in the country. It requires proof of shots for anyone entering a wide variety of businesses. Trade groups say the mandate causes confusion and could present safety concerns for employees tasked with checking customers' vaccination status. City officials say they won't start enforcing the rules until November 29th. Fines up to $5,000 could be imposed.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the bipartisan infrastructure bill clears Congress and the Biden administration promotes the win. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The San Diego port is working overtime to help relieve the backlog at ports in Los Angeles and in Long Beach. The port says it is accepting 2 to 4 extra cargo ships per month. All Southern California ports are running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is the first time that has ever happened. As a medium-sized port, San Diego cannot accommodate mega ships. It also has to take care of existing customers first, like the 3 billion bananas it processes per year, or imported cars at the National City Terminal, which make up 10% of all the cars that come into the U.S.
Everyone is clamoring for their goods and services, but there's going to have to be a prioritization along these ports.
The California Chamber of Commerce told Governor Newsom to keep ports open for the next 90 days while investing in automation to ease the congestion. Economic analysts believe the entire supply chain backup could last until the middle of next year. One of the kinks that is causing disruptions in the global supply chain is a severe shortage of truckers. KPBS reporter Alexandra Runhel examines this issue and visits a local driving school working to keep up with demand.
Brakes in. A little blow on the horn there, make sure nobody's out hanging out. It's all clear.
Andre Weston is a driving instructor at United Truck Driving School in Mission Valley.
I'm going to teach them how to do a little bit of upshifting. We won't worry about downshifting too much inside here.
A year ago, this job wasn't in Weston's plans, but then the pandemic hit and he saw the need for his expertise.
I thought I was going to retire. I did retire, and then I see this ad, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I got 20 years experience, and I'm thinking, man, you're sitting here wasting it. Why don't you go out there and see what happens? Go talk to them.
Careers in trucking have long been a path for the middle class who don't have college degrees, but it's a grueling job that doesn't attract many younger workers. And now a wave of retirements is washing over the industry, leaving firms in desperate straits. According to the American Trucking Associations, the industry is short 80,000 drivers. That number is expected to double by 2030 if major progress isn't made. Philip Harris is also a retired trucker and now the admissions counselor at United. He says it's a shortage that has accumulated over the years. But the pandemic has made the situation worse.
With COVID came out, the guys that were going to retire in 3 to 4 years just said, nah, we're done. And then DMVs were closed, so they weren't able to license new drivers, which takes about 6 months to really get the good training.
But the need has never been greater. The ATA estimates that 72% of the nation's freight gets moved by truckers.
We have been posting everywhere.
From billboards to Craigslist to recruiting at diesel gas stations, Roberto Rodriguez says he's tried every avenue to look for new hires.
Down here in San Diego, in California especially, we don't have enough drivers. The drivers that already have their permits, their license, they are working for big companies. They are paying a lot better wages than other companies are, so they're not leaving their companies to go and work for somebody else.
He's increased pay, but as he raises the bar, other companies do the same.
Pay is going up. We have one major company that last year was paying in the $20 range. They now are paying their Class A drivers $25 an hour.
Gary Smith is the placement instructor for United. He says companies are now willing to hire drivers with no experience, as long as they have a license. That used to be unheard of. Rodriguez says he can't be choosy. Right now, he has 1,000 trailers on his lot waiting to be picked up. The company is now looking to Mexico for help.
We have been working with a lot of lawyers or law firms to verify they can help us to do any process so we can give Mexican drivers the opportunity to work down here.
Brakes, flashes are still on, release the feet.
As companies scramble to fill driver seats, United Trucking School is doing its part to fill the need.
We take them from almost ground zero and teach them all the skills and knowledge in order to become professional truck drivers.
During the 4-week course, students earn their Class A and Class B commercial driving license and are helped with job placement. The news of the driver shortage and higher pay appears to be having an effect. For the first time ever, United has a wait list of students looking to join the program. And applicants are coming from diverse backgrounds.
We've been very inundated with students. Students are just, we're booked out till January.
Theron Gray is currently enrolled in the program, but it's not his first time getting his CDL. He left trucking a few years back when his daughter was born because he wanted to be home more.
But with incentives increasing for drivers, he's ready to hit the road again.
There's a lot of work available right now for truck drivers. A lot of people are going into other careers that are more corporate, white collar, and they're kind of leaving the blue collar jobs behind. And these companies need bodies in the seats.
Yet the trucker lifestyle isn't for everyone. Harris says he's very blunt with students who are looking to enroll.
I'm gonna be honest with you, you can't. You know, your shifting's getting really good lately, right? Your upshifting, your downshifting, all of that's been, it's really coming through. Muscle memory.
As for Wesson, he's just grateful he gets to contribute to teaching the next generation of drivers.
I think we can get there together. Keep America moving, so to speak, because right now, we're backed up, and it's bad.
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
And this story was made possible with support from the Economic Hardship Reporting Project. 4 astronauts are earthbound after spending nearly 200 days in space. Among them is NASA astronaut and UC San Diego alum Megan McArthur. The 4 crew members departed the International Space Station today in a capsule built by SpaceX. They are expected to splash down near Florida tonight. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.